You won't believe what's coming next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. It was the year 2020. The world was under siege by a virus. There wasn't enough medical equipment, staff, or even hospital beds for everyone who needed them. People were dying at home alone. At that time, many countries started closing schools and moving classes online. But one country had a brilliant idea. The leaders knew they had to take immediate action to prevent the spread of the virus among students. So, the Ministry of Education took a decision to keep all the schools closed for an indefinite period. They thought that if they kept the kids at home long enough, the virus would be gone by the time it was safe for them to come back. The problem was that no one knew how long the quarantine would last. But after 2 years of fighting the virus, the situation seemed to have stabilized. There were still some cases, but they weren't too serious anymore. So the Ministry of Education decided that it was finally time for the students to go back to school. They made an announcement and told everyone that all the schools would reopen on September the 28th, 2022. All teachers and students were happy. They couldn't wait to go back to school and see their friends again. But there was one teacher who was very worried about going back to work. She was a kindergarten teacher, and when she heard the news, she started thinking about what it would be like to teach a class full of 5-year-olds after 2 years of online learning. She had never taught in person before, so she didn't know what to expect. She was also worried that the students might not listen to her because they were used to being at home and doing whatever they wanted. The school had provided them with all the necessary equipment to make sure that the students could learn from home. They had given each child a tablet and a 4G Wi-Fi connection so they could access the internet and do their homework. But the problem was that not all parents could afford to buy their children the things they needed to learn from home. Some parents didn't have a smartphone or a 4G internet connection, so their children couldn't do their homework. And those who did have the equipment often didn't use it because they were bored. This is why the teacher was worried. She knew that when the students came back to school, they wouldn't be able to read or write because they hadn't practiced. She didn't know what to do until one day she had a brilliant idea. When she found out that the schools were reopening, she went to the store and bought a bunch of books and toys for her students. She spent over $100 on her class so they could have fun while learning. When her colleagues asked her why she had done that, she said that she wanted to make sure her students would enjoy school and not feel like it was a punishment. She knew that if she made learning fun, then they would want to come to school every day. And it worked perfectly. The first day back at school was a huge success. The students loved playing with the new toys and reading the new books. They were so excited to be back in school that they forgot all about being bored. The teacher was so happy to see that her plan had worked. She knew that she had made the right decision by buying all those materials for her students. But it was only the beginning. In the following months, the teacher had to deal with a lot of problems. For example, some parents kept taking their children out of school because they were afraid they would get sick. Others were afraid their children would fall behind in their studies. But the teacher always managed to solve these problems. She kept in touch with her students' parents and made sure they knew that everything was going well. She also made sure to make learning fun and engaging so that the students wouldn't get bored and want to stay home instead. And then there was the problem of making sure the students didn't get sick. The teacher did everything she could to keep her classroom clean and disinfected. She also made sure the students washed their hands before eating and after playing. She even went as far as to ask the school to install a hand sanitizer dispenser in her classroom. Despite all her efforts, there were still some problems. At one point, one of her students got sick and had to stay home for 2 weeks. The teacher was worried that the student would fall behind in their studies, but she didn't want to put the other students at risk either, so she had to find a solution. That's when she started using technology to her advantage. She recorded all her lessons and uploaded them to an online platform so the sick student could watch them from home. She also made sure to check in with the student regularly to make sure they were keeping up with their studies. It was tough, but the teacher was determined to make sure all her students succeeded. Despite all the challenges, the teacher never gave up. She kept trying new things until she found what worked best for her students. For example, she tried using different teaching methods, like more visual aids and hands-on activities, to keep her students engaged. She also made sure to tailor her lessons to the needs of her students, knowing that they had fallen behind because they had been out of school for so long. One day, the teacher was reading a book to her students when she realized that one of them wasn't paying attention. She stopped reading and asked the student what was wrong. The child looked up and said, "I'm bored." The teacher knew that if she didn't do something, the other students would start getting bored too. So she decided to make a change. She put the book away and asked her students what they wanted to learn about. They shouted different things: dinosaurs, outer space, animals. The teacher smiled and said, "Okay, let's learn about all of those things." She used her tablet to show pictures and videos of dinosaurs, outer space, and animals. The students were so excited to learn about what interested them that they forgot all about being bored. From that day on, the teacher made sure to make learning fun and relevant to her students. She knew that if they enjoyed school, they wouldn't want to stay home. As time went on, the teacher continued to find ways to make learning fun and engaging for her students. She organized field trips to the zoo and the museum. She invited guest speakers to talk to her class about their jobs. She even started a school newspaper that her students could write for. The teacher was so dedicated to her job that she became a role model for her students. She showed them that if you work hard and never give up, you can achieve anything. The students loved her for it and always did their best to make her proud. Today, the students are all grown up and have gone their separate ways. Some are still in school, while others have started their careers. But they all remember their kindergarten teacher with fondness. They remember how she made learning fun and how she always made sure they felt loved and supported. Because of her, they developed a love for learning that has lasted a lifetime. Now you tell us, what do you think? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let us know in the comments below. And one more thing before we go. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.